The government is coming for your encryption. I say come and take it. They can't possibly stop us all. What's in the news with stories on New Hampshire trying to stop asset forfeiture, beer banned in 15 states, cop arrested for rape and assault, cop arresting people for no crimes, VA staff stealing millions, and Second Amendment sanctuary in Virginia. Also, an Ask Me Anything where I answer your questions on free cities, defensive voting, omelets, Star Wars characters, and LP presidential nominations. This episode is brought to you by Health Excellence Plus, a health share that has saved my family thousands of dollars and can save you money too. Also brought to you by ForkFest, the annual decentralized Libertarian camping event that happens around PorcFest, with no tickets and no one in charge. Also brought to you by my dozens of supporters.
Welcome to The Lava Flow, channeling the flow of information to the libertarian, anarcho-capitalist, voluntarist, and agorist community. Find us at thelavaflow.com. Here's your host, Roger Paxton.
Thank you for joining me this week from the home state of the Free State Project at fsp.org, the reason I'm in this state. This is the show where I shoot from the lip to bring you the people, places, and events that everyone in the Liberty Rebellion needs to know. You can catch me on Twitter at TheLavaFlowPod. This is episode 148, Right to Encryption, and it's Tuesday, December 17th, 2019. When there have already been more than 864 people killed by police this year, and the United States debt clock shows us at more than $23,124,700,000,000 in debt. What's wrestling my jimmies this week? You're about to find out. Let's do it to it. To hell with freedom of speech, your rulers are telling you. They are saying it so vociferously that they are still coming after one way that you can 100% ensure your freedom of speech. They are still after your encryption, and it is heating up. Republican and Democratic senators found themselves in rare agreement as they warned that technology companies must design their product encryption to comply with court orders, regardless of any cybersecurity risks. Representatives from Apple and Facebook faced the bipartisan outrage during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing about their use of warrant-proof encryption, as an influential New York prosecutor warned that the companies were stymieing investigations into terrorism, organized crime, and child sexual exploitation. One by one, the senators told the Silicon Valley witnesses that if they didn't implement warrant-compatible encryption voluntarily, Congress would force them to do so. Judiciary Chairman Lindsey Graham says, "My advice to you is to get on with it, because this time next year, if you haven't found a way that you can live with, we will impose our will on you." Look, he's not even cloaking his threats. He is going all out, saying it's either our way or the highway. Or either comply under the threat of force, or we will use real force to make you comply. Fuck Lindsey Graham in the neck with encrypted data. Senator Dick Durbin, the upper chamber's number 2 Democrat, echoed Graham's warning. The encryption debate is about whether to allow companies to be beyond the reach of the law, he said. Durbin showed little patience for Silicon Valley's argument that encryption protects ordinary Americans from hackers and repressive regimes that want to spy on users' communications. The judiciary hearing was not about those threats, he said. Oh, we're talking about our government protecting our citizens from crime? Oh, they're doing this to protect us? Bullshit they are. They are doing it to protect themselves and their power, period. Senator Joni Ernst warned the tech industry witnesses that if an encryption solution doesn't happen by you, it will happen by Congress. Senator Marsha Blackburn said tech companies need to get your act together, or we will gladly get your act together for you. More threats. Man, it's funny how their violence comes out when their power is threatened. Former FBI Director James Comey used terrorism as the centerpiece of his argument about encryption, pointing to the 2015 terrorist attack in San Bernardino, California, as an illustration of how encryption hampered investigations. This year, DOJ changed tactics and began focusing instead on how encryption complicates investigations of child sexual abuse. Tuesday's hearing showed how effective that emotionally charged strategy has been in convincing senators that the encryption problem has been left to fester long enough. And, of course they did. They know when they are getting nowhere, they can just tell their lemmings, their subjects, that they are doing it for the children, and the sheep will line up and follow them. It happens every time. Many staffers at both the Department of Justice and the FBI have joined the festivities, arguing that encryption enables all manner of nefarious behavior, from human trafficking to child exploitation, as they push for the inclusion of law enforcement backdoors in everything, from routers to smartphones. The lone voice at the encryption hearing defending the tech companies was Senator Mike Lee, who often finds himself at odds with his Republican colleagues on surveillance and privacy issues. As the hearing concluded, Lee lamented seeing the conversation descend into a contest over who loves children and who acts with reckless disregard for them. You can always tell that a conversation is descending into a bad area when people invoke extremes, he said. No shit. At least one legislature gets it and won't fall for that bullshit. Now, actual security experts and tech giants like Facebook and Apple have long highlighted the foolishness of such efforts. Encryption aids everybody, they'll note, protecting customers, activists, and criminals alike. Embed backdoors in encryption and network gear, they've warned, and you've undermined an essential security tool, putting everyone at risk. But even the government can't get their story straight. The Defense Department is now pointing out that the government's quest to weaken encryption lies somewhere between counterproductive and downright harmful. Defense Department's Chief Information Officer Dana Deasy wrote a letter noting that all DoD-issued unclassified mobile devices are required to be password protected using strong passwords, and that any data in transit on DoD-issued mobile devices must be encrypted via VPN. He said in the letter, "The importance of strong encryption and VPNs for our mobile workforce is imperative. As the use of mobile devices continues to expand, it is imperative that innovative security techniques, such as advanced encryption algorithms, are constantly maintained and improved to protect DoD information and resources. The Department of Defense believes maintaining a domestic client for state-of-the-art security and encryption is critical to the protection of our national security." So, of course, this is yet another government case of one hand not knowing what the other is doing. But we're supposed to think that, in their infinite knowledge, the government can make the best rules for 330 million people, when they can't even make the best rules for themselves.
What's in the news? The news you need to know from a libertarian perspective.
In New Hampshire, it's like this too news, a bill pre-filed in the New Hampshire House would close a loophole allowing state and local police to circumvent more stringent state asset forfeiture laws by passing cases off to the feds. A coalition of 3 Republicans pre-filed House Bill 1192. The legislation would prohibit any state, county, or municipal law enforcement agency or prosecuting authority from entering into an agreement to transfer seized property to a federal agent directly, indirectly, by adoption, or through an intergovernmental joint task force for the purposes of forfeiture litigation, unless the seized property includes United States currency in excess of $100,000. The proposed law would also require any New Hampshire law enforcement agency participating in a joint task force with federal agencies to transfer responsibility for the seized property to a state prosecutor for forfeiture under state law, unless the seized property includes over $100,000 in currency. Passage of HB 1192 would prohibit the transfer of the vast majority of asset forfeiture cases. Reporting in some areas has shown that 85% of seizures received by law enforcement agencies through the Federal Equitable Sharing Program did not meet a $50,000 threshold. HB 1192 would also make it more difficult for police to seize property. New Hampshire law already prohibits seizing property if the owner was found not guilty of the underlying criminal offense. The legislation would ban forfeiture if the property owner was not charged with or convicted of an underlying criminal offense. Boy, that makes a lot of sense. HB 1192 will be officially introduced and referred to the House Judiciary Committee when the legislature convenes for the 2020 session on January the 8th. Is your state doing anything like this at all? Well, mine is, and I'm thankful for it. This bill was put up by Free Staters and friends of the Free State Project that are in the House. Chances are nothing will come of this once it reaches committee, but it is showing a better way to people. If we are going to have a state government, the least they can do is step up to the feds and tell them to fuck off. In nanny state news, Sam Adams released a new beer this past Halloween called Utopias, but it was banned in 15 states due to the drink's high level of alcohol. Utopias is described as a barrel-aged extreme beer and has a multi-year-long brewing process. The 2019 brew is a blend of Sam Adams' earlier extreme beers, which have reportedly been aged in wooden bourbon casks. According to Forbes, Sam Adams only brewed 77 wooden casks of Utopias, which the outlet describes as having distinct vanilla notes and subtle nutty and elegant dark fruit aromas. The beer also claims to have an ABV, alcohol by volume, of 28%, significantly higher than the average beer, which is usually lower than 10%. A spokesperson for Samuel Adams confirmed to Fox News that due to its high levels of alcohol, this already hard-to-find beer was illegal in 15 states. And of course it is. In these same states, you can find 40% or even higher spirits, but God forbid a beer have 28% alcohol. These states have to protect the beer interests in their state, of course. And they have to protect consumers from high alcohol, as long as it's in a beer bottle and not a liquor bottle, I guess. That's the logic of your rulers, people. As most of you know, I was laid off from my 9-to-5 director of IT job last summer. Among the many terrifying things about losing your job is losing your health benefits. Our family went about 6 months without any kind of health insurance, and the anxiety and worry that came along with that was not insignificant. But after spending dozens of hours researching our options and quickly rejecting the $2,000 a month price tag that came with the options available with traditional insurance, we found Health Excellence Plus, a health share that was a fraction of the cost, and we're glad we did. Only a few weeks after joining as members of this health share program, my wife was diagnosed with a common skin cancer that requires an expensive procedure to remove the cancer and another surgery to repair the damage done from the cancer removal. When this is all said and done, Health Excellence Plus will have saved our family thousands of dollars, and I'll bet they can save you money too. Health Excellence Plus is a health share that meets the requirements of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. A health share is a community of like-minded, health-focused members who have joined together to share each other's medical costs above an amount they can comfortably afford. A health share is not traditional health insurance. It is designed to be a catastrophic coverage for major items, like my wife's surgery. The cost of an average family insurance policy for a primary 45 years old with a $5,000 deductible is $1,450 per month. A Health Excellence Plus $500 initial insurable amount with a healthcare strategy is only $783. Get started saving money today at thelavaflow.com/health. That's thelavaflow.com/health. In Bad Boys news, Baltimore County Police have arrested and charged one of their own officers with multiple counts of rape and assault. Officer Anthony Michael Westerman, a 25-year-old, 6-year veteran of the department, was assigned to the Essex precinct. He was charged after the department's Special Victims Unit began an investigation into allegations made against him. Police have released no details on when or where the alleged incidents occurred, but Chief Melissa Hyatt called the accusations reprehensible. Hyatt said, "The allegations made in this case are reprehensible and are not representative of the values and ethics of the Baltimore County Police Department. As a result of a thorough investigation by the Baltimore County Police Department Criminal Investigations Bureau, the officer has been arrested and has been suspended without pay." Without pay? God damn, these guys are serious. Westerman is being held at the Baltimore County Department of Corrections without bail. Without bail? Holy shit, these guys really are serious. Now look, I'm shocked, I tell you, that he was arrested, held without bail, and is not getting paid while on suspension. I can only guess that he really pissed somebody off high up in the Baltimore Police Department to warrant this type of treatment. Bad cops are rarely ever treated like the average citizen, but this one is, and I applaud it. In more Bad Boys news, one Phoenix, Arizona police officer, a certified expert in detecting impaired driving, has arrested 9 people for DUI who were under the legal limit or had no detectable alcohol or drugs in their systems at all. According to the Phoenix Police Department, Officer David Morris has made 56 DUI arrests since April of 2018. Court records show at least 9 of those drivers had their cases dismissed due to lack of evidence. One of the accused, Tasha McConnell, said, "It was quite embarrassing. I knew I did nothing wrong." McConnell was pulled over near the intersection of Cave Creek and Joe Max Road on a July afternoon for allegedly failing to stop at a stop sign. She told the responding officer the only drugs in her system were antibiotics, but Officer Morris keyed in on eyelid tremors. He also said she performed poorly on the field sobriety test. McConnell said, "They just kept sticking to asking me what drugs I was on. He asked me if I was on marijuana. He insisted I was on harder drugs." McConnell said she is not sure what caused her eyelid flutter, but the lab report confirmed her blood did not contain alcohol or any of the drugs that Phoenix police test for. Jim Brongo was arrested in September by the same 2 officers as McConnell. The police report said he had bloodshot, watery eyes, slurred speech, and that he failed a field sobriety test. Brongo's blood work showed that he was 100% clean. Mike Toth was pulled over for failing to maintain his lane last year. Morris arrested him for DUI drugs. Toth said he told the officers his only drug use was some antacid for heartburn. His charges were also dropped. Even after the charges were dropped, Phoenix police officials are questioning if those drivers were really innocent. Because, cops never make mistakes, or lie, or cheat, or abuse the people they're supposed to protect and serve. Of course. And of course, the department is backing up their supposed expert. How could they not? If it comes out that their expert is wrong, it calls their entire drunk driving initiative into question. And they can't have that. I had the awesome pleasure of joining liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians for the 3rd annual ForkFest in June in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire, and I had a blast. I've now been to all 3 ForkFests, and I don't plan on missing a single one. This year, the event at least tripled in size from last year, with tons more people there and several food vendors. ForkFest is a decentralized camping event where no one is in charge. This means there is no ticket cost to attend the event. This also means that you are free to create whatever experience or event you want or would like others to enjoy. You can connect with other ForkFesters via the unofficial Telegram chat or the ForkFest forum at the unofficial website forkfest.party. That's forkfest.party. Keep an eye out for the dates for next year's event, which will likely be in late June. I hope to see you at ForkFest next year. In government healthcare news, at least 15 Department of Veterans Affairs employees and vendors in Florida were engaged in an elaborate fraud scheme that cost the government millions of dollars since 2009, 2 government agencies announced in a joint press conference. Declining to give the exact amount allegedly stolen or say what tipped them off, the U.S. Attorney General for the Southern District of Florida and the Department of Veteran Affairs Inspector General said people affiliated with the Miami and West Palm Beach VA clinics were charged and arrested on charges including conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud, committing healthcare fraud, and bribery. 9 of the suspects were low-level procurement staff, officials said. They allegedly defrauded the VA by letting vendors charge inflated prices for products or saying vendors supplied an order that was completely or partially unfilled. The employees would then receive a kickback on what the VA paid those vendors, officials said. District Attorney General Ariana Fajardo-Orshon said, "This fraud scheme was clearly carried out not only by the VA employees but deceptively with those vendors, and both of them are equally culpable in this scheme." Officials also announced a separate but similar alleged fraud scheme that they suspect involved disabled veteran Lisa Anderson, 48, of Delray Beach. The Attorney General has charged Anderson with false statements on her service-disabled veteran-owned small business application, accusing her of selling her preferred VA contract status to businesses that she was not connected to. Orshan emphasized those arrests and the alleged kickback schemes were not representative of the VA at large. Orshan said, "However, that does not reflect on the many well-intentioned, hard-working individuals that work for the VA medical services. And I want to clearly state that, so it's just a couple of bad apples." Yeah, well, you know what the saying actually means, right, Orshan? One bad apple spoils the entire bunch. The maximum prison sentence for the charges are as follows: 10 years for conspiracy to commit healthcare fraud, 15 years for bribery, and 20 years for falsifying records. This is government healthcare in action, folks. In some good cops under fire news, Democratic lawmakers on Capitol Hill say local police who do not enforce gun control measures likely to pass in Virginia should face prosecution and even threats of the National Guard. After November's Virginia legislature elections that led to Democrats taking control of both chambers, the gun control legislation proposed by some Democrats moved forward, including universal background checks, an assault weapons ban, and a red flag law. Legal firearm owners in the state, however, joined with their sheriffs to form Second Amendment sanctuary counties, which declare the authorities in these municipalities uphold the Second Amendment in the face of any gun control measure passed by Richmond. Over 75 counties in Virginia have so far adopted such Second Amendment sanctuary resolutions in the Commonwealth, the latest being Spotsylvania County. The Board of Supervisors voted unanimously to approve a resolution declaring that county police will not enforce state-level gun laws that violate Second Amendment rights. Virginia Democratic officials, however, already say local law enforcement supporting these resolutions will face consequences if they do not carry out any law the state legislature passes. Democratic Virginia Representative Gary Connolly said, "I would hope they either resign in good conscience because they cannot not uphold the law which they are sworn to uphold, or they're prosecuted for failure to fulfill their oath. The law is the law. If that law becomes the law, you don't have a choice, not if you're a sworn officer of the law." So much for swearing an oath to the Constitution. The law is the law, really? So slavery should have been vociferously defended because it was the law? Fuck this ball bag in the neck with an assault weapon. Democratic Virginia Representative Donald McEachin suggested cutting off state funds to counties that do not comply with any gun control measures that they pass in Richmond. He said, "They certainly risk funding, because if the sheriff's department is not going to enforce the law, they're going to lose money. The county's attorney's offices are not going to have the money to prosecute because their prosecutions are going to go down." McEachin also noted that Democratic Virginia Governor Ralph Northam could call the National Guard if necessary. He said, "And ultimately, I'm not the governor, but the governor may have to nationalize the National Guard to enforce the law. That's his call because I don't know how serious these counties are and how severe the violations of law will be, but that's obviously an option that he has." So, these illegitimate rulers are passing illegitimate and unconstitutional laws, and now they want to use their illegitimate power to force their enforcers to enforce these illegitimate laws. What a bunch of fucking thugs. Man, shit is about to get nuts in Virginia. I'll be keeping an eye on it. Oh, and one more thing. Unfit to fucking exist.
Ask me anything. Roger will answer your questions about, well, anything. Do you have a question for Roger? Email ama@thelavaflow.com or add your question to the latest AMA thread in the Pax Libertas Productions Facebook group.
It's that time again. I'm going to answer your burning questions. Remember, you can ask me your questions by adding it to the thread that I post in the Pax Libertas Productions Podcast Fans Facebook group or by emailing me directly at ama@thelavaflow.com. Or if you are awesome as fuck and you support this show, you can ask me your question in the Lava Flow Super Supporters Facebook group or on Patreon. So let's jump right into the questions. First question this week comes from supporter Tristan K. He asks, "So I am currently in the planning stages for creating a self-sustainable town in my terrible home state of Illinois. The plan is to make it a fully functional town minus the unwanted intrusions of government. Any tips, suggestions, or criticisms you may have would be appreciated. Love the show and keep it real, sir." Tristan, thanks for the question, and I think this is a great idea, but I highly doubt that it's ever going to work in the United States. Frankly, I think the best bet for this is to try to find some property that can be purchased along with purchasing sovereignty from a country. That is not likely to happen in the U.S. People have looked at doing this in unincorporated areas in the U.S., and it's never materialized. I wish you luck, but I think you may be better served looking outside of the U.S. for this. This is why I pay so much attention to activities like Free Society from Roger Ver, Free Private Cities from Titus Gebel, seasteading, and other ventures as the future. You guys know that I moved to New Hampshire to find more freedom in my life, and it has worked. I am freer now than I've ever been in my entire life. And I do love New Hampshire. It's a wonderful, beautiful state. But if there is ever another, better opportunity out there for more freedom, I'm going to jump on that one as well. My goal is not to live in a certain place, even as awesome as New Hampshire is. My goal is to live free wherever I can. Speaking of seasteading as the future, as you know, seasteading hit a bit of a rough start in Thailand, but they aren't letting that stop them. They are now currently working with the government of Panama to bring about the second attempt at seasteading off the coast of that country. Ocean Builders is currently building in Panama, creating jobs for locals, and working with the government to ensure that this is not a repeat of the Thailand incident. As you can imagine, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on this and will bring you more information as it comes out. Supporter Mark W. asks, am I going to voluntarism hell if I vote defensively against a local millage increase that will jack my property taxes by 40%? Well, Mark, there is no such thing as hell, but if there were, voting would certainly be one way to get there. Look, I made the argument for years that I was okay to vote in defense of myself. I told myself that it was okay to perpetuate the system that I hate and that uses violence against me by voting and participating. I understand the arguments because I was there. I will never tell anyone how to live their lives. I will say, though, that for me, the best way to not commit acts of aggression against others is to not be a party to the abusive, thieving, murderous system of government. In my opinion, voting is being a party to that system. It is giving them your tacit approval. I refuse to give my approval or participation. No politician in office today can say that I in any way helped them get to their seats. And no bureaucrat today can say that I let them know that I felt they had the power to tax me more by voting in their illegitimate system. If the system is truly illegitimate and immoral, as we believe, how can we possibly participate in it? As a quick aside, a discussion happened in one of my encrypted wire groups here in the Free Coast where a good friend and supporter of this show made similar arguments. I asked Link for her permission to share her comments with you. Here's what she said. I, for one, spend an awful lot of time and effort building the system that will enable people to quit counting on government for their money. When something has wormed its way so thoroughly into people's everyday lives that they can't even imagine not having it, we have to build systems that aren't just robust enough to handle the dissidents, but are actively, qualitatively better than the shit the government provides. There are lots of ways to do that. In our community, we have people practicing in all kinds of ways, from better ways to educate children, to better ways to use technology, to better ways to transact. But you know what will never work? Casting fucking ballots. Participating in the rotten system as though somehow, by supporting it and legitimizing it, you can possibly accomplish the exact opposite goal of undermining it. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but every time someone, especially one of you, casts a vote, perpetuates this violent, abusive system, it does come across as an attack. It comes across as supporting not just your own subjugation, which I can forgive you for, but mine, which you have absolutely no right to do. You want to play this stupid, rigged, violent game with your own life and freedom? Have at it. But you can't have mine. My life and freedom are not yours to piss away worshiping a state because you can't imagine or won't work your way out of it. It does make me angry. I'm not angry enough to attack you physically because it wouldn't solve the problem. But I absolutely am angry enough to call you out on it. To tell you that I think what you're doing is profoundly unjust. And to tell you that I think it's practically a sign of brain damage not to see it. Well said, Link, and you're goddamned right. Yes, these are very, very harsh words, and she understands that. But as William Lloyd Garrison said, I am aware that many object to the severity of my language, but is there not cause for severity? I will be as harsh as truth and as uncompromising as justice. On this matter, I do not wish to think or to speak or to write with moderation. No. Tell a man whose house is on fire to give a moderate alarm. Tell him to moderately rescue his wife from the hands of the ravisher. Tell the mother to gradually extricate her babe from the fire into which it has fallen. But urge me not to use moderation in a cause like the present. I am in earnest. I will not equivocate. I will not excuse. I will not retreat a single inch, and I will be heard. The apathy of the people is enough to make every statue leap from its pedestal and to hasten the resurrection of the dead. Mark also asks, when did you realize that you were standing on the exit end of the snowblower? So this is a nice one. For those of you who aren't friends of mine on Facebook, and if you aren't, why the fuck aren't you? This is a question related to my current profile picture there. The first snow of this year, I was out blowing the snow off of our massive driveway with my John Deere. Now, this John Deere snowblower has a movable snow chute, so I can point the snow where I want it to go, but we were having some crazy insane winds that day, and the winds kept shifting like mad. So no matter where I turned that fucking chute, the snow was hitting me directly in the face. So, of course, my wife had to document that by taking a picture of my face and beard covered in snow. And, of course, I had to commemorate that by making it my profile picture on Facebook. Thanks for the questions, Mark. Daryl W. Perry asks, you're making omelets. What goes on it? Well, I always put ham, onions, hot sauce, and generally that's going to be Tabasco chipotle sauce right now, and cheese, of course. If anyone eats an omelet any other way, they are going straight to voluntarist hell. Supporter Mark Clare asks, J.J. Abrams wants to craft a new Star Wars trilogy, centered around a character loosely based on Roger Paxton. Describe your character's name, attributes, and story arc in 30 seconds or less. Well, Mark, George Lucas already beat me to the punch on this one when he created the character of Han Solo. He's a rogue who hates the system so much that he works in the black market to make his living outside of the system. That is agorism at its core. He also has an I don't give a fuck attitude about what other people do with their lives as long as they leave him alone. He's a libertarian. You would never see Han Solo vote or be a part of the government system, even when his own wife is part of the system. He's a voluntarist. And he cares about number one, himself, above all things, including those things that mean the most to him, his highest values in life, like his wife Leia and his friends Luke and Chewbacca. So he's an objectivist. I don't think I could create a more perfect character than George Lucas already did. Supporter Brian B. asks, who do you think is going to win the LP presidential nomination in 2020? Wait, there's a presidential race coming up? I hadn't noticed. But in all seriousness, I don't even know who all's running, other than a couple of them that I know personally, like Adam and Vermin. I haven't paid a bit of attention to this ruckus, and I am much more sane and happy because of my ignorance. The only candidate that I could ever support would be the one who makes the most fun of the entire system and shows its ridiculousness. For me, that is 100% Vermin Supreme. He's not running to win. He's not running for power. He is running to show those in power and those who support those in power how insane it all is. That is a message I can get behind 100%. That's all the questions I have time for this week. Thank you to everyone who has sent in a question. I still have a bunch in the queue for next week, so make sure to subscribe because there are some really good ones coming up. Thank you for listening to the show this week. As always, I need to thank my favorite carpenter's apprentice, Jessica, for her help with the show. For the show notes to this episode, where I put links and other information that's been on this show, go to thelavaflow.com/148. I don't have any new supporters this week, but thanks to all of my awesome supporters, I'm at $245 per episode, or 49% of the way towards my next goal of $500 per episode. Thank you guys for all of your support. Remember, when I hit this next goal, I'm going to be upping the content that I bring you from half an hour per week to a full hour. I know you want more content from me, and I want to give it to you. So add your pledge today to help me bring you twice the lava flow that you're getting today. So exercise your free market muscles by going to thelavaflow.com/support and giving a donation of as little as $1 a week using Federal Reserve notes through my site or using cryptocurrencies through Bitbacker. I want to be able to bring you more content soon, so make sure to add your donation today to help make that happen. Again, that's thelavaflow.com/support. I also don't have any new reviews this week, but if you have a minute and you want to hear your review read right here on the show, please go to thelavaflow.com/Apple and leave me a rating and a review. All the cool kids are doing it. Thank you to everyone who's left me a rating and a review so far. You guys rock. To all of you who haven't, can you guys help me out and go leave a review for me? Go to thelavaflow.com/Apple to do that now. Until next time, keep striking the root.
Thank you for listening to The Lava Flow at thelavaflow.com. Don't miss an episode. Subscribe now at thelavaflow.com/subscribe. This has been a Pax Libertas Productions podcast.